A tearful plea tonight. That is the wife of a journalist who went missing in Brazil, saying, even if I don't find the love of my life alive, we must find them, please. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Marnie Hughes. It has been 5 days since reporter Dom Phillips, who writes for the Washington Post, the New York Times, among other publications, disappeared along with his colleague, Bruno Pereira. The two were last seen Sunday in a remote region of the Amazon rainforest in far western Brazil. Now, a criminal investigation has been opened into this case, but critics say the Brazilian government has been absent from the search. Correspondent Kelly Meyer is following the very latest for us tonight. And Kelly, knew within just the last hour, search teams found apparent human remains in the river where this pair was last seen. What more have we learned?
That's right, Marnie, and they're saying that this is the biggest break yet in this 5-day investigation. They're also saying that they're looking at traces of blood found during the search. The two were last seen on Sunday in the remote region of the Amazon rainforest. They were supposed to return by boat, but never showed up. Two men who were with the pair in the days before they went missing, saying they were threatened by local fishermen who was flashing their guns at them.
Javari Valley in the Amazon is the second biggest indigenous territory in Brazil, and it is believed to have one of the world's highest concentrations of uncontacted indigenous tribes. The area is also seriously affected by illegal trafficking, mining, and fishing, and it is reportedly suffering from increased activities of armed groups.
And Marnie, like you said, celebrities and the White House now getting involved, urging the Brazilian government to do more to find these men. We heard from actor Mark Ruffalo tweeting, quote, there needs to be an international response to this. The trend of journalists being attacked, killed, or disappeared in rightward-veering democracies must be called out. President Biden meeting with Brazil's President Bolsonaro in Los Angeles during his meeting there to find out what is being done. The government coming under criticism for dragging its feet in the days leading up to this case. Marnie.
All right, Kelly Meyer live in Washington, D.C. tonight, and the investigation continues into those human remains and if they are, in fact, connected to either of these two in Brazil. Kelly, thank you. I want to bring in Tim Crockett now. He has served years in the military, now trains journalists to report in hostile situations all across the world. Tim, good to see you. First of all, the specifics of this case and their disappearance 5 days ago, they knew the risks. This is a dangerous area where they are reporting. What stands out to you about what we know at this point?
Yes, thank you, Marnie. They did know the risks. I think the risks are well documented in that part of the world, from illegal mining, illegal logging, and even drug trafficking. But that's to say that this pair had deep knowledge of the region, had a lot of experience of working in similar areas, and in fact, that valley itself. So many of their former colleagues have said that they wouldn't have gone into the area without being properly prepared and knowing the risks. So it's unlikely that it would have been an accident of some sort. I think within a matter of hours, groups associated or known to Bruno had already searched through the area and found no evidence of an accident. So again, it points more to foul play, and especially in regards to eyewitnesses saying that the group were threatened and perhaps were followed when they left, I believe, Sao Rafael earlier that Sunday.
Right. They had been threatened and they had tried to seek out some help. Tim, critics have said that Brazil's president has taken an unsympathetic approach to the search, saying that the two had gone in an ill-advised adventure into the forest. What do you make of that statement?
I think it's very poor use of words. This is not an isolated situation. There are similar incidents. I think there was another member of a similar group that was murdered a few years previously in retaliation to actions against illegal mining in the same area. So it is a situation where we see all too often threats that have sort of been followed through and that ended in a disaster.
As I mentioned, you prepare journalists to go all around the world into hostile regions such as this. What types of things do you do to prepare them and help them plan for the dangers and risks they may face?
Well, I have trained actual journalists operating in this area along with some other environmental groups, because it is a very remote and difficult environment in which to work within. You have to be properly prepared, know the reason where you're going, and have a degree of accountability with the groups that you're going to be interacting with, and have some sort of means to communicate with the outside world. So it's very difficult that when you have an incident, that someone will come and respond. And I think that's what we're seeing with the lack of response and the lack of resources being devoted to their initial search could have been the difference between life and death.
More largely speaking, Tim, what are the threats that journalists face around the world, particularly now as opposed to decades ago, in trying to cover these stories that need to be told?
Well, the risks against journalists, as well as other groups involved with various activist activity, is the kind of the impunity of those that perpetrate the sort of threats and attacks against them. When those sort of things go unchecked, then the risks escalate, and the more remote a location that you're working within, those risks can sometimes be a real impediment for getting the story out or actually carrying out the work that you're going there for. So, yeah, in an area like this, you've got the environmental risks. So those posed by the actual remoteness of the area. The jungle's a dangerous place anyway. And then add to that illegal logging, illegal mining, drug trafficking, and the list carries on.
Right. And we know that Dom Phillips was writing a book about the preservation of the Amazon. Really challenging times for all of those involved, particularly their families tonight, with the findings of human remains in this very river, now under investigation whether or not they are, in fact, one of these two men who disappeared. Tim Crockett, we always appreciate you coming on, giving us your perspective. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.